Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you joined us today for our Safe and Sound Speaker Series. Thank you. We are recording this session, and we'll be talking about where you can find the recordings after the fact in a minute. So Safe and Sound Week is led by OSHA. It's a nationwide event that's held every August that recognizes the successes of workplace health and safety programs around the country. It offers information and ideas about how to keep America's workers safe. So we decided to tag team on that whole event this week and offer our own event to help build more awareness around safety. Our goal this week is to empower you to implement safety processes in your facilities and workplaces by sharing knowledge from our Columbus McKinnon team of safety experts, application, and product line experts. We're going to be streaming daily conversations from 12 to 1 on Monday through Friday of this week, and they will be recorded. We will allow 30 minutes for the conversation and 15 minutes for questions. So here's the lineup for our week. Today we're kicking off with a lifting industry safety discussion with Columbus McKinnon trainers Rob Bruno and Henry Brozyna. Tuesday, August 11th, our topic will be safety and automation with automation experts Peter Stippen and Jim Cluck. Wednesday, we'll be talking about staying safe in harsh and hazardous environments. That will also be presented by our Columbus McKinnon trainers, Rob Bruno and Henry Brozyna. Thursday on the 13th, we'll be covering safety with crane controls, and that will be featuring material handling experts Bob Schmidt and Casey Cummins. And Friday, we're going to wrap up with safety and entertainment rigging. That will be presented by our entertainment industry specialists, which are Nick Fleming and Brian Leister. So we're very excited for the lineup that we have. Before we begin, just a few things just to get started. All sessions for the week are recorded, and we'll be posting them on a page on our website. Every day at the end of the session, we'll be sharing a link to that page so that you can click to go there. We'll have a transcript from the event, as well as any follow-up downloads or any information that was shared by our speakers that would be helpful to you. So we'll have one for each day, and as I said, look for it at the end of each session. And if you missed out on that, don't worry, because by the end of the week, we'll share an email with links to all of those. Also, everyone is this listen-only mode, so we ask that you please go in and type in your questions. If you type the little orange arrow, if you click on the orange arrow, it'll open up into the Q&A pane, and you can type in your questions, and we'll be taking them at the end. So now I'd like to introduce to you Lori Collins. She's our Director of Corporate Human Resources and Talent, and she's going to share an exciting update today about Columbus McKinnon. And I'll go ahead and kick off the conversation, Lori. So we're going to be talking about values. What are the core values that we have, and why are they important?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I think the best way to start is to give you a little history. So in 2017, Columbus McKinnon created a new strategic vision that we call Blueprint for Growth. And as part of that, we aspired to do a few things. We really wanted to start simplifying our business to be able to consolidate some of the repetition in our product lines and improve the experience of our customers. We were very focused on ramping growth engine, and that's both through innovation in technology and improving our current product line. And then third, really driving more rigor and best-in-class performance in our operations and operational excellence. So we knew that to make those things possible, we really had to create behaviors within our organization and reimagine some of our cultural norms so that our day-to-day life supported operational excellence, simplification, and growth. And at that time, we redesigned and rolled out new core values. And what are core values? Well, they're more than just a priority or an objective. They are truly what we stand for. They support our purpose, our vision, and they are unchanging. So when we created those 5 core values back in 2017, we really looked at who we were and truly the DNA of our organization, but also started to work in where do we want to be? And again, why, kind of that concept of what got us here won't get us there. So we spent a lot of time and energy creating those 5 core values and doing it in a way that was meaningful to the organization, and a lot of energy communicating it and making sure it started becoming integrated into our business. So that was an exciting, opportunity a few years ago, but actually late in 2019, our leadership had started having discussions around adding another core value. We over the course of a couple of years, we started feeling like something was missing. And we decided that we wanted to design a sixth core value, one that was centered around safety. When we thought about it, everything we do has to do with safety. It's a lot more than just keeping our employees safe. It's also what we do in our products. So we began to design the new core value in early 2020, and then COVID-19 happened, and actually it kind of increased our focus even more so on employee health and safety. Obviously, it made that much more of an intense priority for us. So the timing really couldn't be better, but we're excited that we can announce a new sixth core value to our organization, and that is the value is called Connect Safety to Everything You Do. And it kind of has three sub bullets, which are to take personal responsibility, care for our people, and build products that everyone can trust. And that's what Connect Safety to Everything You Do means to us, that we want to challenge our organization and every person in it to wake up every morning and think about safety.
There we go. I'm sharing it now. Can everyone see? Perfect. Yeah, so this is the safety value that we're talking about, that Lori's sharing. So Lori, what does having a new safety value mean to more of our external stakeholders, like our customers, users of our product, as well as anyone on the outside? So how does that impact them?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. It's I would tell you that, first of all, making this a core value means that every single Columbus McKinnon employee, from the CEO to every sales rep to the folks machining and assembling our products, they're expected to live this value. And again, it's more than just a priority or an objective or something that we check the box and we can move on to next thing. It's really, if it's a value, it's part of your way of life. It's something that you deeply believe. So I think for our external partners, you can know that you're doing business with a company that sees health and safety as part of our ethical obligation, right, to both our employees, but also to our products and to you, and the people that buy our products. It also is important because when you think about, for example, caring for our people, the employees that you interact with that are Columbus McKinnon employees, with this being part of our value system, they're better cared for, right? They're more engaged. They know that the company values them in a way that is very personal to all of us in terms of our health and our ability to come into work and then go home from work, in the same condition that we started. So I hope that, and I know that eventually, employees will carry that mindset also, not just about themselves, but to everybody else that they interact with. And the fact that literally our purpose as a company and our products are synonymous with safety. So when you buy Columbus McKinnon products or you interact with our different, associates around the world, you expect those people to keep you and your colleagues safe because it truly is part of our DNA. So I think that that's a key part of it. And then, the other piece too, I would just mention is that we have, our 5 core values, and we've actually chosen strategically to put the safety value at the very top of the list. So that means that, like I said, every employee every morning is going to wake up thinking about this as a critical mission, as well as what they're expected to behave and make decisions with safety in mind. So when it's a core value, it just can't be, it can't be compromised, it can't be changed. It doesn't get moved off the list for something else. It really sticks with us. And I think over time, we've obviously just introduced it, but over time, it's going to get stronger and stronger and more a part of the experience as an employee and also as anyone who's doing business with us.
Well, if I can just add this, I've been at the company a long time, and since the values were introduced, I mean, they're all over everywhere. It's what everybody talks about. It's what everybody focuses on. You go have a coffee, anywhere you go in the building, you see them. They're in every conference room, and people are really stepping up and living them. And so it's exciting to see this new one. So for those of you listening, it's more than just something on a wall. It's something we really take seriously. I have one more question for you, Lori. In the wake of COVID-19, there's a lot of focus on what companies did for their people during the crisis. but has the safety value influenced any decisions or reactions to the virus?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like I said, the timing of rolling out the safety value actually couldn't have been better with us, going through this crisis, because early on in the COVID-19 crisis, we established that our products and our services were essential businesses. So we knew that we were going to remain largely operational through however long this, lasted and however long this storm was going to be weathered. So closing down or taking a hiatus in our operations facilities or even in our corporate offices was not an option. And our top priority became protecting the health and safety of our essential employees, especially the ones that literally had to be in the building to produce our product. And so we've had like employees and leaders in every location living and breathing safety and caution and thinking about the nuances of how to keep people safe from COVID-19 while remaining operational, really since this hit, certainly all around the world. And I love that a big part of making this part of our value is caring for our people, because I think that's more important than ever. And luckily, like I said, despite the fact that this was a crisis that nobody wanted to wished upon our company or the world, we've definitely come together as a team, and it's more important than ever to care for the people that work for us and the people we work with. For example, we prioritized making health and welfare benefits available and at lower costs to everyone, and making things like telemedicine, free of charge in the U.S. And another great thing that from a health and safety standpoint came out of this experience is that physical health has always been inherently understood as part of safety, right? We always think about safety as don't get hurt, don't get other people hurt, right, when you're on the job. But I think that this experience of COVID-19 has actually put a focus on things like mental and emotional well-being, kind of the person as a whole and their well-being, and the fact that those things, the anxiety and uncertainty that all of us have experienced over the last many months do affect our safety, both at work and just our well-being in general. So even training leaders around sensitivity and being more sensitive around topics in that nature, and making more employee services available to people who were struggling with emotional or mental well-being during this time, were kind of ways that we put our money where our mouth is. And in those ways, I think we really are going to emerge as a stronger company, and probably a lot of companies are going to be in the same boat, right, where we have a more complete focus on employee well-being, and not just on physical safety, but as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think all of those things obviously should improve the customer experience, right, or the channel partner experience, because employees that are well are going to be happier, more engaged, more supportive, and just better partners for 100%. All of you.
No, it's been great. I really appreciate you taking the time to share that with us, and you're going to start seeing, us talking more about that safety value online. So appreciate you joining us today, Lori. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, excellent. I'm glad you can give everyone an update. And like we said, look for more to come on that. So awesome. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to shift gears and we're going to move over to feature Rob and Henry to talk a little bit about training and what they're going to be sharing today. So I'd like to read a couple of bios on them so you understand the background on both of them and what insight they can add to the conversation. So Henry is an industry product trainer at Columbus McKinnon. He's been working in this industry for over 20 years in crane and hoist, inspection and repair, rigging, and load securement. He's a member of the tie-down committee and a former board of director for the WSTDA, for those who are familiar with that. This group writes the standards that are used by the material handling industry, transportation industry, and also law enforcement. Rob is an industry product trainer with Columbus McKinnon. He served 6 years in the U.S. Coastal Guard on a 225-foot seagoing buoy tender, where he was a crane operator and handled all aspects of shipboard rigging. After the Coast Guard, he worked for a very large wire rope and sling manufacturer. He was responsible for sling fabrication and inspection, as well as off-site rigging and inspection. And lastly, after moving to California, Rob worked with one of the largest synthetic sling manufacturers in the country, where he was responsible for nuclear, hydro, aerospace, and wind energy customers. So you can see there's a lot of experience that these two bring. So I'm happy to bring them today. We're going to be talking today about policies and procedures. Are they implemented and enforced? We're also going to be touching on inspections and training. So I'm going to go ahead and lead off the conversation. So why do the two of you bring up this topic? I mean, why are policies and procedures so important in companies today?
Well, policies and procedures are important simply because they give the associates in an organization a guidebook. What's expected of not just me but of other people, and also it gives them a idea as to where the company wants them to be and where the company wants to go. So, I mean, most companies, if not all, obviously they're all aware of safety issues that are out there. And when it comes to material handling, a lot of them will have procedures in place as far as how do things get rigged up, who's qualified to operate the crane, who's qualified to do the rigging, how often inspections need to be done, depending on how often the items get used. All right. I know Rob has spoken, I've spoken with Rob, I should say, several times when it comes to backing up what you say, in other words, enforcement. And I'll turn that over to Rob, and he can talk more on that.
So, everybody has policies and procedures in place, but the enforcement aspect is really some of the most important part of it. Anybody can write policies and procedures, put it in a book or a binder and stick it up on the shelf, and that's the end of it. Well, we have policies and procedures. So I really think it comes down to not only the workers, but also management and the company to enforce those policies and procedures. And I refer to OSHA 1926 subpart C, which is actually their guidance on their policies and procedures and how a safety plan should be implemented. And there's one phrase that really kind of sticks out to me for everybody to kind of think about.
Yeah.
And it's, although compliance with the law, including specific OSHA standards, is an important objective, an effective program looks beyond specific requirements of the law to address all hazards. It seeks to prevent injuries and illnesses, whether or not compliance is an issue. So it's not just set policies and procedures that meet the minimum guidance or the minimum regulations or the law. Go beyond that and really evaluate what your situation is, what your area looks like, what your company does, and build the policies and procedures beyond the law. Make them as extensive and safe as you can, as well as enforce those policies and procedures. And eventually it will become part of your culture, part of your values that your employees as well as your employer live by. And safety just becomes paramount then.
But that's a challenge. I mean, a corporate culture, that's a huge, huge thing to change. I mean, what are your suggestions for how do you make it a part of a culture?
It is very challenging. Henry, do you want to chime in?
Well, the thing is when it comes to company cultures, that goes from the top right on down. If people are out on the floor and they're working and somebody does something inappropriate or wrong or unsafe, and someone brings it up to their supervisor and tells them about it, and your supervisor's like, "That's okay, it's not a big deal. You only did that for that 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever it was. You needed to get that job done. It's done. Nobody got hurt. Forget about it." That's part of the culture. It's like, well, why should I bring up anything that is a potential hazard?
Right.
If I tell my boss, he just blows me off. It's like, so why bother with it? And then the problem that you have now is now when the company comes in with a new policy or a new procedure and they want to implement it, the people out on the floor are resistant to it because they're like, well, why should I do this? It's not going to matter. I'm just going to go and tell my boss and he's just going to blow me off again. So it's very, very important that from the culture, as far as culture aspect, from the top all the way on down. And the thing is they can get a lot of this information from the different standards that are out there. I mean, there's ASME's got tons of standards, CMAA, WSTVA, all of those different groups are out there, OSHA, all those groups are out there. That information is out there. They can gather that information up, all right, and implement it and make it part of their procedures.
Okay. Well, but you want to make it part of the culture, but it is very difficult to be enforced. Can you give an example? Let's just give an example for everyone of like a best practice, like something, or even an example that you saw with people you worked with or people you trained, or things that you saw in the places you worked, or even, you know, when you were actually at a site with a customer where you saw a very good way of enforcement of these.
Yeah, so being trainers, Henry and I see a lot of different facilities, and we visit a lot of different places from all different sorts of things, manufacturing and such. And one of the best policies or procedures that I've seen in place is I actually was on site and saw the management team as well as the supervisors walk the production floor. Every morning I was there, they walked the production floor. They identified hazards. They talked with the machine operators. Is there anything going on? Is there anything you want us to be aware of? And they went around the entire facility. Then when they were done, they went back in, they met with the safety director who was also on the walkthrough. They discussed everything going on, and then he went back out and he would tag certain things out of order until they were fixed, you know, machine guards or whatever. And he'd say, nope, we got to fix this right away. It's a safety issue. But one of the things that stuck out to me was where they talked to the operators. They talked to the people using the equipment. Hey, is there anything going on? They know best. They're behind the stuff 8, 10, 12 hours a day, every single day. So they involved the workers in the process, which basically ingrained the workers into this procedure. So a lot of times, before they even go through their walkthrough, the workers said, hey, you know, this is not right. We need to get this fixed. And it was fixed. So they really encompassed how important it was to them as a company, as well as to the workers, that safety was paramount in that building. And, you know, they've probably been very successful and probably haven't had an accident in many years because of that sort of program. And again, it really goes back to involving everybody. From the guy sweeping the floors all the way up to the executives. You got to get everybody involved in this in order for it to work and function properly.
Yeah, and you're also emphasizing the importance of management by walking around, visibility, and that makes transparency. And I love what you said about involvement, because yeah, if everybody is involved and included, then they have some ownership in the process.
It shows that everybody cares.
Oh, of course. And everybody wants to be cared for and about. And if they know that their job makes a difference, they're going to go the extra mile to do what needs to get done to make it safer, or, you know, apply. I love that. Okay, when you look at training in general, because you guys do this all the time, it seems that many companies take more of a reactive versus a proactive approach. What are your suggestions for helping companies take that more proactive approach, in addition to what you already said?
Well, when companies take a proactive approach, like the example that Rob just spoke about, you know, people walk, you know, the upper management walking through the shop looking for safety issues and then documenting them and then doing something about it. That's a proactive approach. You don't want to be reactive. Reactive usually means either you've had an accident or someone's maybe even gotten hurt. All right. A lot of companies, you know what, when somebody gets hurt, you know, it's like, well, Joe got hurt. He's in a hospital. He'll be out in a couple of days. He's, you know, no big deal. Yeah, it is a big deal. You know, the thing that you don't see is the time lost that they have, the accident itself. What's the cost of the accident as far as medical bills and hospitalization and things like that. But more important is what does it do to his psyche? Is he going to come back to work and be able to do that job again? You know, he may not be able to do that anymore. All right. So when you're reactive, it's not a real good position you'd want to be in. I mean, there's always going to be that situation where you're not going to help but be in a reactive situation. That's gonna happen. But there are a lot of things that we can look at how people are doing things. whether it be using the right type of equipment or just using the equipment properly. In other words, train them properly. That's going to be a more proactive approach. And there are more and more companies today that I have seen that are doing just that. They're becoming a little bit more proactive than they are reactive. So it's
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Henry. You had touched on training and the importance of training.
Yeah.
And that's more proactive because they see that there's a skill maybe lacking. They're trying to empower their employees. So investing in their employees by getting training makes them better able to do their jobs and better able to, what Rob was saying, to kind of see problems and identify them and share them, et cetera. So training sounds like a key element to all of this.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, a lot of people are saying, well, what's the payback on training? And it's like, well, I can't quantify that. And I don't think anyone really can, other than you can just look maybe 5 years down the road and you can look back and say, well, you know what, ever since we started getting everybody trained, our accident rate has dropped dramatically because people are doing things in a better way.
Hey, Rob, do you happen to have any statistics that you could share with us about the impact that implementing these processes and procedures for safety can have on an organization?
I do. I went to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics and I pulled up 2018's the most recent reports they have out. And it kind of shocked me. I was honestly quite surprised by it. So in 2018, there were 2,834,500 recorded accidents in the workplace in the United States. That is a massive number, and it equated to 900,400 days of missed work.
Wow.
So, you look at that, and sadly, there was 5,250 fatalities. And this covers industry as a whole. It's not lifting and rigging. It's everything. Slips, falls, traffic, the whole gamut. But regardless of what that is, you kind of have to think, what happened? Why are there so many? Are the policies and procedures in place? Are the policies and procedures being enforced? Is training happening? And much to what Henry said, is it reactive or proactive? We get calls all the time as trainers. We just dropped a load. We need somebody out here right away. Well, to me, that phone call was made too late.
Yeah.
Because we should have gotten the call a year or a month or 2 weeks ago and said, hey, we've noticed some things going on in our facility. We really should get you guys out here and make sure our guys are up to speed and trained correctly. The call after an accident has occurred, it's too late. Somebody could have lost their life or been severely damaged or injured or property. So you look at these numbers, there is a return on investment when it comes to training, because 900,400 days of lost work is a lot of money.
It is.
Plus all the expenses you pay through workman's comp and medical and things like that for 2,834,500 workplace accidents, as well as sadly 5,250 people went to work one day to provide for their family or provide for themselves and never went back home. And I believe, as a trainer, a lot of this could be prevented. There will always be accidents, but let's make them accidents because it was truly an accident, not because of lack of training, lack of knowledge, improper safety measures in place. Let's make it a true accident. And I believe those numbers could come down. And, it's sad that you can go to work and possibly not go home, and it's scary to think about. And
it could be prevented through the proper things that you've already been talking about, right?
In many cases, easily.
Okay. Well, I think at this point, we are going to open it up to questions, and I see that a few people have been asking some. So let's see what we have. Okay, let's see. Okay, here's a question. Wouldn't a post-shift write-up of equipment issues that gives maintenance a chance to complete repairs during downtime overnight be acceptable?
Well, I'm going to chime in real quick, and then I'm going to let Henry jump on top of me. Post-shift issues You know, to me, it depends. You know, what's the issue? You know, is a machine guard missing? Well, to me, that's a pretty big issue. Somebody could slip and fall. Somebody could lose an arm right away. So I think there's a lot of variance in there of what the issue is, whether or not it can wait till the next day, or whether or not it needs to be fixed immediately. In my opinion, safety is safety. So if you write it up as a safety issue, it should be addressed immediately. But I'll let Henry kind of jump on top of that and get his opinion on that.
No, Rob's correct. I mean, safety is an issue, and it should be corrected as quickly as possible. But there are some things that will come up that are safety related, that are like, well, you know what, say, I don't know, say for example, an extension cord is laying across an aisle. I mean, yeah, obviously it becomes a trip hazard now, but there are things that you can do to minimize that as a hazard. I mean, there's things that you can put across the top of it so it doesn't be, so it's not as big a trip hazard as it might be if there's nothing across there. I mean, there's things that can be purchased that'll lessen that. So
Yeah.
if, again, Rob is correct. I mean, it depends on the hazard. I mean, if there's a machine guard missing, yeah, that machine guard needs to be replaced quickly, if not right away. All right, because that is a hazard that is just waiting for somebody's finger to get into, or arm or something. All right,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would agree with just you know, everything that Rob said. He's correct on that. If it's a safety hazard, it needs to be addressed as expeditiously as possible. Put it that way.
Excellent. And here's another question. In aviation maintenance, the night shift would have the aircraft ready for use the next day. So I think that was just a follow-up. Okay, all right, next question. In your training experience, has one safety issue stuck out on top of others? What is the predominant safety issue that you see the most?
Complacency.
Let's see.
I would say that complacency is number one. A lot of times people will, you know, I've talked to many crane operators and riggers and other people that lift things, and the old adage is, well, I've been doing this so long, I can do it in my sleep. And it's like, please don't do it in your sleep. I don't want you. I want you to be wide awake. I want you to be very alert. All right, because every time something leaves the ground, I don't care how big or how small it is, it's a safety hazard. All right, it's an accident waiting to happen if it's not done properly and safely. So complacency to me is probably the biggest thing. You know, people get set in their ways, you know, they get in that rut and they don't want to get out. You know, they feel comfortable there. So I would say complacency. I don't know if Rob's got anything else there.
I'm going to kind of just jump on that with two, I call them fatal terms, but they're really dangerous terms. And that's, it's a light load, and this is the way we've always done it. There is no such thing as a light load, okay? 5 pounds from 10 feet in the air, or 1,000,000 pounds from 10 feet in the air could kill you or injure you, right? So a load is a load. In the lifting world, you know, that as soon as it leaves the ground, it becomes a deadly object. And this is the way we've always done it. It goes back to Henry saying complacency. Well, this is the way we've always done it. That's fine. A doesn't mean it's the right way. And B doesn't mean it's the best way. And most importantly, it doesn't mean it's the safest way. So, you know, even in a job where you're lifting the same thing every day off an assembly line, day in and day out, always go back and reevaluate your process. Find flaws in it. Update it, change it, so you don't become complacent. So you don't get into that, I can do it in my sleep mentality, because that's usually when the accident's going to happen.
When everybody thinks they don't think anymore. They just kind of go on autopilot.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone has any more questions, feel free to type them in now. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you another question. So I know we have a lot of resources on our website. We have a lot of blog articles we're going to be sending you a link to that these two have written. They're very insightful, covering a lot of the topics that they've been speaking on today. Yeah, is there any other suggestion? I mean, we've talked about complacency. We've talked about, fighting complacency. When you were just mentioning, Rob, the need to kind of revisit your process, how frequently would you recommend that people do that?
You know, as often as possible. You know, as you know, it really is going to incorporate the value of safety, right? And it's going to incorporate that thing. So, you know, maybe on a monthly basis, you just review your plans, you know, your lift plans or your procedures, your operating procedures. But it shouldn't just be done at a management level.
Mhm.
Bring the people in who are actually doing the lifts, bring them into the conversation. Sit down and have lunch together and say, hey, you guys got any thoughts, you know? And I always say, bring in the newest employee,
Oh, that's
because
a great suggestion.
he has the eyes open, right? He's looking
Yeah.
around going, none of this really makes sense to me. And he might start seeing things, you know, that doesn't look right, or you know, maybe if we hook it in here, it will pick up better, it won't jar, or it won't shake, or things like that. You know, always bring in the newest guy and bring in the oldest guy and let them conversate, you know, and you get a real good dialogue there. And that's what it's all about, is the conversation between management, the people operating it, the people supervising it. So everybody's involved in this. And, you know, just maybe on a monthly basis, even a quarterly basis, take a look at these things. You know, oftentimes Henry and I go and do training, and these guys, the first thing they want to do is take us out on a site tour, and we go and we walk around their facility. Then we kick off in the training, and you'll see the safety supervisor tap the guy next to him. Do we do that? No. And his eyes get real big, you know. Do we do this? No. You know. And afterwards, you know, they usually say, man, we're going to implement a lot of stuff. I hope they actually do it, and most probably do. But, you know, it's just that fresh set of eyes looking at things, bringing in a new perspective can really, really help and prevent things.
Yep.
Yeah, the only thing that I would comment on that is that rather than maybe formally, you can do this like an inspection tour or a safety tour every month or every week, whatever. But as far as when someone comes up to their supervisor and says, hey, I don't think this is very safe, I think we should do it this way, I think that should be on a daily basis almost, you know, or whenever it does happen. You know, the operator should let their supervisors know that any unsafe condition is there and it should be addressed immediately. You know, it's kind of going back to that machine guard. You know, when somebody finds something wrong, let's take care of it right away. Why should we wait till the next time that someone comes through on an audit and address it at that point in time? I mean, audits are great, all right? I think they should take place on a regular basis. But when something is brought up immediately, it should be addressed immediately. They shouldn't have to wait for an audit to come through.
So do it now. That's your message.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially if they find it out now, they can address it.
Absolutely. Okay, we got a few more questions. One of them, are there resources that evaluate an employer's safety program and help them improve their program without fear of OSHA violation?
I guess the only way that you can answer that is are you following your procedures? Are you following the industry standards and the manufacturer's recommendations when it comes to the different products or machinery or equipment that's being used? That's all I can say. There's if you're looking for, say, does OSHA or someone have like a checklist out there that you can just, you know, tick off? I don't know of anything like that. But all I can say is, you know, follow the industry standards that apply. The manufacturers will give you some really good information. You know, I mean, I've always told Rob, I says, yeah, when somebody buys a hoist from CM, the hoist goes to wherever it's supposed to go out in the shop, and the manuals and everything usually stay back at the loading dock because there's someone there that's like, I want all the paperwork. Well, the paperwork, the manual, the inspection manual, the maintenance manual, the operator's manual does that person no good. It needs to go with the hoist. All right, so that's one of the things, and there's a lot of good information in there. The manufacturer will tell you how to inspect it, how to use it, how to maintain it, how to repair it, you know, what standards apply to that particular piece of equipment. So yeah, I mean, you got to look at the info that you get. I mean, nobody's going to sell you a piece of equipment without information.
And there is a ton of very helpful information. I hear this all the time where people are trying to find ours online and things. So yeah. And
Gisela, just to throw out there, OSHA 1926 subpart C is their safety and health program management guidelines. Like Henry said, it's definitely not a checklist, but if you're interested and if the company's interested, it's kind of an outline of what at minimum you should have. And again, we want you to go far beyond that into your own company, but it kind of lays out 4 general areas that OSHA thinks you should pay attention to. So chances are you should really pay attention to. And then you can kind of build from that outline your safety program.
Now, is this something that's available on their website?
Yep, it's OSHA.gov, and you could just type in 1926. Realistically, all of OSHA is public. All of their regulations are public knowledge, so it's all free to access. You can pull all that documentation, print it, do whatever you have to do. But it's just OSHA.gov, and then you can search within there. It's a phenomenal website. I have it bookmarked because I get asked questions all the time.
We'll include a link to it on our blog so everyone can reference it. Okay, we have 3 more questions and then we'll wrap up for today. So what methods do you find help employees on the floor become engaged with new procedures?
Through training, through hands-on demonstrations. I always tell people, I said, whenever I do my class, I'm a touchy-feely guy. I'm the type of person that likes to go out there. If I find a new way of doing something, it's like I would rather just show me how to do it, and it just registers better. And I think most people are like that, where they like to go in there and they like to get, they'll get their hands dirty, and they want to get this thing in between here and really feel how it works. And I think that's probably, to me, that's the best way to do it. I mean, a lot of the training that we do involves a lot of hands-on demonstrations and a lot of input from our classes, as far as the hands-on stuff goes. So, and one of the things is because we think people learn better that way. People remember. You don't have any eyes in your fingers, but trust me, they do see more.
And we have them disassemble and assemble hoist, don't we, in our classes? That's what I thought.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah, I've seen, and they come out so happy and so excited when they've been able to accomplish it. When I've seen them all come through in Charlotte, there's a certain joy and of achievement when they finally can put it back together.
Well, and a lot of the mysteries are gone. A lot of times people look at a hoist and it's like, oh my God, that's a 10-ton hoist. And they're petrified of it because it can lift so much load. But then when you show them how it all comes apart and how simple and basic it is on the inside, they're like, I don't understand why I was so scared.
Yeah, it's knowledge. Yeah. Okay, a couple more questions. Or did you want to say something else, Rob?
Yeah, Henry's 100% correct. And I also think explain to them why the new policy and procedure came out. Give them an explanation. We're changing things up because we've noticed this, or we've observed this, or this has occurred. So we need to implement this new policy and procedure. Sometimes an explanation will go a long way also, not just this is what the company wants and you're going to do it. Explain to them why it's important that we implement this new policy and procedure.
I'm just checking time. Okay, we have 15 minutes before we wrap up. We probably should wrap up in about 10. So we have just a couple more questions. Logs and documentation. What are your recommendations regarding that?
Well, there's many of the standards whenever you do repairs to the especially when it comes to lifting equipment. Whenever you do any kind of repairs, you have to document it. A lot of times, even when you do load tests, you have to document things. There are certain things that must be documented. As far as logbooks go, that register, I'm assuming that's just to register that someone's been using the equipment. That's fine. You don't have to do that. All right, but there are certain aspects. I know up in Canada, in certain other countries, you have to do that all the time. You have no choice but to log that information on a daily basis when the unit's being used. So again, it's going to come down to where you are, what your company's procedures are that are in place, and then just follow them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent, thank you. I've been reading through some of the more questions that came in. Some of them I will have Rob and Henry respond to directly. someone had brought up an OSHA consultation program. Are either of you two familiar with that?
I am not.
Okay. Yeah, we can put some kind of information on that. Let's see what else. Yeah, and like I said, perfect. Yeah, we've been sharing some information on some of these comments. Okay, I think that is it for today as far as the questions are concerned. I guess one of the last questions that just came in is specific for Columbus McKinnon. Tell you what, the last thing I'll say is this before we wrap up with your final closing comments that I know you both would like to share. One of the things we want to talk about is, as I said, we'll be sharing a link to where you can find this information. So look for it briefly in the comments, or if not, you'll be getting an email from us later today with that information. And this will be where the recording and the transcript will be captured, as well as any resources that we've mentioned today. One of the things I want to share is we just finished some great online content, some great online training. Some of it is old content that's been updated. Some of it is brand new content. So we will also be, in fact, shortly I'll be copying and pasting that into the comments as well, where you can find that. And then the last question, someone was asking about whether we offer training in Canada. I guess I'll let Rob and Henry answer that question. That's the hands-on training that we were talking about. So can you just answer that question, and then we'll go off to your closing comments.
Yes, short answer, yes, we do offer training up in Canada. Right now, that's all kind of been suspended because the border between the US and Canada has been closed because of COVID. But yeah, we do offer the training up in Canada. We can do it on site. We do not have a specific training center in Canada. We do all of the training up in Canada at the customer's facility. And we will bring the hoist with us to tear them apart. I mean, Rob, what do we got? I think it's 6 skids. There's like 24 hoists roughly that we will travel with, as well as tools that come. So, I mean, the customer does not even have to supply hoists. We will supply hoists and everything else. So.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you both. Let's see. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate the comments that just came in. We'll be sure to share them. All right. Okay, I guess I just have one request. We will post in the comments a link to the online training I just mentioned in case anyone is interested. Some of it is recertification. So if you've been trained by Columbus McKinnon in the past and just want to get recertified, we have that online now, so we can share a link to that. But with this, I'd like to go ahead and ask Rob and Henry if you could think of one point that you want to emphasize of what you've covered today, what would that be?
I'll let Rob go first.
Okay.
He looks anxious.
Yeah. You know, I think the biggest point is with the policies and procedures and really, you know, like Columbus McKinnon has done, make it part of your culture in your company. Really ingrain safety, the policies, the procedures, why we need those into your people throughout the organization, from the lowest man on the totem pole to the highest man or woman on the totem pole. Make sure everybody is involved. Make sure everybody understands why you have them, why they're there, why they're so important, and most of all, enforce them. Mm-hmm. And it will become part of your culture. And I would really bet my salary that your safety numbers would skyrocket and your accidents will decline drastically.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you.
All
right. Yeah, Henry?
No,
yeah.
Just kidding.
You can't say that.
No, Rob is 100% correct. Make safety part of your everyday goal. You know, when we walk into our facilities and do work, it's a hazardous environment. I don't care what facility you're walking into. You could trip, you could fall, you could have something, you know, bump into you, you could bump into something. Be aware of your surroundings. That will go a long way to help prevent accidents. Your policies and procedures need to be followed. If they're good policies and procedures, especially if they're easy to follow. You know, the worst thing you can do is make something so complicated, so convoluted that people are like, I ain't doing this. This is nuts. Well, yeah, then you're gonna get a lot of pushback. But if you can make it easy, simple, step-by-step instructions, training will help to go a long way to do that, whether it's internal or external. But yeah, it's what you want to do is make it simple, easy to follow, easy to understand, and really make it part of your everyday duties, your everyday culture. Like Rob said, from the top on down. That'll go a long way to make every plant in this country really, really safe.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you both, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate your participation, and we hope to see you in the future events for the rest of the week. So if you haven't already, we will also send out a link for the rest of the week in case you would like to register for more sessions. So thank you, everyone. We wish you a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.